Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and we just got this announcement about the Stranglegasp, the Onyx amulet that has got some flat, like implicit all attributes, and then also has probably one of the coolest unique lines that we've seen in the last, I almost want to say 2 years. But there's been some pretty awesome stuff over the last 2 years. So definitely, I think this is probably my favorite unique already, just in terms of design space from the last year. So let's chat just for a minute about some of the things that you can do with this. So Stranglegasp says you can have 3 additional enchantment modifiers on it. Now, as soon as you think of this, you should start thinking about how on your amulet slot, you usually like to enchant using oils, using blight oils, onto your amulet, a passive that you otherwise couldn't necessarily get to. So for the vast majority of builds, let's say you're a build that is really reliant on the left side of the tree. Let's say, for instance, let's say you're a Templar. Let's say you're a witch and you're a summoner of some form. Let's say you're a righteous fire kind of character, berserker, super fast chieftain, strength stacker. And so you're over here. You're on the left-hand side of the tree, a whole bunch. Let's say you had trouble grabbing some really strong damage nodes that are otherwise located on the right-hand side of the tree. It used to be that maybe if you got your defenses and a decent amount of offenses from the left-hand side of the tree with one of those Templar, Witch, or Marauder builds, that then you could anoint, like maybe something on the opposite side of the tree for damage, or vice versa. Maybe you're a damage-dealing character, more heavy on the right-hand side of the tree. You don't necessarily have tons of defenses, necessarily just speaking in very broad terms. And so you're going to use your anoint on your amulet for defenses. And so you'll come over onto the left-hand side of the tree. Maybe for a long time it was Soul of Steel was popular. There have been a couple other anoints that have been popular. I believe there's one up here with the shields. Yeah, Mystic Bulwark a while ago I think was popular when block was really big. Some folks I've seen like Cruel Prep, like early league and then swapping over to some other things. Sometimes you'll even see folks grabbing things like, oh, where is it? Is this the Totem Life Ironwood? 30% increased Totem Life. That's pretty good. Like if you're playing Forbidden Rite and you want your totems to have a lot of HP, but it's way out of the way. So you can anoint that, right? This unique, that's just an example of just the typical overview of usage of amulet anoints to this point in time. This unique is going to give you 3 additional enchantment modifiers. That's a lot. That's a lot. Imagine if Grinding Gear Games came to you and said, during the 3-1-6 Scourge League, you got to have not 1, not 2, but 3 passive points that you could allocate anywhere on the passive tree to any notable, right? Not a keystone, but any notable without having to connect to it. That'd be pretty good, right? That's what this does. This allows you to jump anywhere you want on the tree 3 times for your build. There's a lot of different builds. Let's pretend for a minute, hypothetically, you're playing a duelist build. You're down here on the bottom portion of the tree because you're a duelist, because you're a champion. And until we have official patch notes, champion's looking very strong with the changes to armor and evasion. So let's say you're playing a champion because, where is it? You take Conquer, you take Worthy Foe. Probably not inspirational, but maybe you get Unstoppable Hero, and then you come over here and you get Fortitude, typical stuff. Maybe you're a Steel Skill, and so you go Master Metal. Maybe you're doing Impale. But I have a feeling a lot of players are going to be playing elemental stuff on champions, but I could be wrong. We'll see once patch notes hits. Let's just pretend you're a champion. All right, so let's all say it together. We're champions. Yeah, we are the champions. Okay, so we're champions, and we love this bottom side of the tree. We really love it. Okay, there's a whole bunch of, let's say, Impale nodes that are like around here that are fun to get, and we're going to get them because we're playing an Impale character. Oh, but wait a minute. What if we're not playing an Impale character? What if we're playing an Elemental character and we're down here as a champion? And we're like, oh my gosh, like look down here. There's some Elemental nodes, but look up here. There's a bunch of Elemental nodes up here. Is it possible that you could play an Elemental-based character now? Like without having to stretch your tree and waste like 15 to 20 points traveling to go take a bunch of nodes? Oh, that's something. While I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of like Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium getting changed, a change to the base damage on the gems might actually mean that you could do something like a champion Elemental character. Like you could do that. It's possible. It's not necessarily going to be good, but it's possible. And now with the Stranglegasp, you can go, oh, well, now I'm going to anoint and grab like a whole bunch of really good nodes for me. What if you're playing a Chaos Dot character? Let's say you're playing, I don't know, ED Contagion, for instance. There's a whole bunch of really good Chaos Dot stuff like over here in your tree on the right-hand side. You're already hanging out over there. But then coming up here, grabbing Corruption, that's 25% increased chaos damage. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's also 20% increased effective Withered. Nothing to sneeze at. And then you get a little bit of chaos damage leached as energy shield. If you're using any kind of energy shield with your hybrid or CI, it's something, right? It's not fantastic, but it's something. You can now go grab that. Like that's available to you. That's an option for you. You don't have to path all the way up over here and have this kind of weird tree where you're coming up and you're like going through Cruel Prep and then you come all the way over here. Like a lot of players, when their builds are really stretched out, as sometimes happens, is like, well, it's totally worth it and I should do this. And then you see like 15 points all to go and get one notable. Those sorts of builds. All right. I'm not saying this is OP for everybody. This is just great. And this is going to be the most highest in demand. You know, this is better than Headhunter and completely changes the game. I'm not saying that. But for builds that were already stretching to grab a bit of power that was specific to their build, this is going to be really strong because you don't necessarily have to stretch anymore. There's going to be a lot more defenses that are placed on the tree, at least based off of the 3 manifestos that we got or the 3 balance note updates. Going to be a lot of stuff on the passive tree. It's going to be spread out. It's not necessarily all going to be in one big clump. You can now go grab stuff. Like imagine if there's, I don't know, 3 different areas on the tree that all had increased maximum elemental resistances. I don't know, something like Soul of Steel, +1 to all max. Something like Survivalist, +1 to max cold resistance, right? Where's the other one? There's one up here too, isn't there? Yeah, Anointed Flesh, +1 to all maximum elemental resistances. Like, that could be good. What about Cruel Preparation? Again, early on. What about coming over and grabbing, where is it? Where's the other one? There's one other one. No, it's a notable. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it's an old notable and I've already forgotten about it. Oh, yeah, there we go. Crystal Skin, +1 to all maximum. There's 3 different nodes. Like, these are not cheap nodes, but there's 3 different nodes that gives you +1 to all maximum elemental resistances. As long as you're able to farm your oils, like 78% elemental resistances. Bada boom, right there. That's without any other items. Like your items, your itemization is just Stranglegasp. That's coming off your amulet. Imagine if there was an amulet that GGG released that was a unique amulet that said +3 to maximum elemental resistances. It'd be pretty decent, right? It might not necessarily be super chase. It might be something that you level up to get, that you purchase, and then you use like through mid-tiers. It might be something that you eventually roll off of. Now, this is where it gets even crazier. All right? These items, these like blight items, you can actually corrupt blight items to go from unique. There's a couple of different mechanisms to do it. But just take a look here on trade. These are corrupted. This is in Expedition. These are corrupted rare helms. They're rare because they've been corrupted. They once were unique blight helms. That's where you're seeing the animation. Or the art. I'm sorry, the art for the helm. Do you see how there's two different anoints, right? These are the former unique Blight helmets that players tried to vol, and they're not any good, right? They tried to vol it. Maybe they tried to double corrupt it, whatever. I don't know. The point being, there's two different anoints on here. You can see on these, some of these people actually want like some serious stuff, right? Like some legitimately good amount of chaos for this sort of stuff. Imagine if you roll this, give yourself a bunch of anoints, and then you corrupt it into a rare. We'll have to see if that's possible. But in theory, we should be able to do this. Like, look at this helm. It's a former Blight helm. It's not fantastic. It's not mirror tier, but it's got some life, some resistance, and then two passives that are potentially saving you, I don't know, 10, 15 other passive points. Any build that has had to reach for anything, that has had to say, I need some more life, I need some more block, I need some more evasion, I need some more flat stat of this, I need some more accuracy. You're an accuracy stacker. You're playing a Howa build and you need some more intelligence. Right? There have been builds in the past, who knows if it'll be this way in 3.16, but there have been builds in the past where legitimately grabbing like one of these, agility, might, where's the other one for int? There's one down here for int somewhere. Ancestral knowledge. Like grabbing one of these is actually a decent, relatively cheap anoint early on for stat stacking based builds. Essentially what this unique does is this unique says, hey, do you like passives? Are you willing to sacrifice some of your stats on your amulet for passives on the tree? Like, again, think about if GGG said, where did Crystal Skin go? It's down here on the bottom, right? Imagine if GGG announced that there's a new unique that had +3 to maximum all elemental resistances. And then how much all resistances are on all these? All right, 30% armor, 5% maximum elemental resistances. And then what's the third one? The third one's up in the top. Where is it? 10. So 10% elemental resistances, +3 to all max, plus 30% increased armor, 150 to flat armor, and then also gave you some chance to avoid elemental ailments and some reduced elemental duration and reduced effect. Like, would it be the best item on its own? No, it would not be the best item. Would it be chase? No. Would it be appropriate for different builds at different points in the league? Absolutely. Now, instead of saying that there's unique locked in with those stats, it's saying you can choose to do that with your build. Whatever you like on the passive tree, you can go get with the Stranglegasp. That's pretty bonkers. I'm not sure if folks remember just how bonkers it was during Blight League to be able to have anoints, and how nuts that was in terms of player power, and the jump that occurred during Blight League that allowed for and afforded for. There were a lot of other things going on during Blight League that were mitigating circumstances. I can understand if players don't necessarily remember the power level of that. But I was in the middle of work here, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just saw this, and I had to really quick share with you guys about this, because then, like, we're just talking the entry point there, where we're talking about, like, hey, make your own unique. Like, craft your own unique. Craft your own amulet to have it say whatever 3 passives on the tree you really want. If you're a minion-based build, like, just be like, oh, you know what? If you're like me, if you're anything like G3 Iron, oftentimes I don't come up here and grab Ravenous Horde. I'm just a loser. I'm like, I don't want to path up and grab it. I'm not doing it. It's too far away. Forget it. I'm not doing it. What about Death Attunement for +1 number of specters? What if you're like hanging out over here on the left-hand side of the tree because you're just like really defensively heavy? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I need to path up with like 5 to 6 points to go up and grab Death Attunement. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can save those 5 or 6 points. You can now put those into your Delirium Cluster Jewels. Like, that's 5 or 6 points saved. There's a lot of flexibility. This is really, really good design. And then on the top end, you can try corrupting it and turning it into an amulet that actually has stats and then having stats also has those bonkers enchantments on it for you that you would want. This is really cool. I really like this. This is really good. I really hope I can use one and maybe make the maximum amount of usage on it. I think this is a pretty cool item. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think this is excellent design, and I would welcome more items like this that allow for flexibility, as well as having a drawback, because there's a lot of drawbacks to this. You're losing out on your amulet slot for all of the other things that you'd want your amulet slot to normally do for your build. Amulets oftentimes are build enabling uniques for a lot of different builds. So you're potentially giving something up, but if you're a build that was just looking at your amulet slot as a utility slot, you just got a huge potential buff. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Anyway, thanks for joining us today for our little mini rant and exploration of this unique. I'm very excited for it. I hope you're excited for it, and I look forward to chatting with you next time. Oh, and I hope 316 is when a mirror or a Stranglegasp drops for you. If you'd like any more information about the topics we chatted about today, links are provided down below in the video description. The G3 community has grown a ton over the last several years, and that's thanks to viewers like you and faithful Patreon supporters. Big shout out to longtime supporters and first-time supporters for